this guy brought up resistance, right? He brought up Stephen Pressfield's resistance thing. And it's like, there's a resistance of like, I don't want to get up and do the thing. Maybe I don't want to go work out today, but you go and you work out, and there's a thing that's healthy for us. What I took away from Pressfield's work is like... This
is the war of art.
The war of art. Like what I took away from that was that when you're here to create something as an artist, and you can be an artist as somebody that owns a company and is developing something and bringing it to the world. You can be an artist as an attorney. You can do your thing artfully.
Absolutely.
Okay? Doing it artfully, though, is going to challenge the way it's done. Like there's a script, and most of us are just following the script. But when you start to do it your way, or you start to lean into the thing that really matters to you, or here's my voice, here's what I have to say, or here's what I want to bring, or here's the impact that I want to make, that's the resistance he's talking about. Is the part that's like, you know what, just do it the way it's always been done. Just follow the script. Just follow all the others that are in line and jumping through all the hoops. And so I have this problem with this form of resistance that some of us talk about, which is like, I need to take Adderall and I need to pump myself up with all these chemicals in order to get motivated. I like to get curious with that. What happened to the motivation? What's going on there? Maybe you're getting sick and tired of this FOMO game and just making sure you don't fall behind, which is different than answering the question, what am I really here to do?
You are listening to the new man beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Is FOMO driving you to constantly be busy, busy, busy? Is it scary to admit that the hustle and grind might be killing your motivation? And when is our resistance trying to help us? Today, Alyson and I discuss motivation, resistance, and the cult of success. We talk about how it's necessary to learn how to thrive in the world, but ultimately, we have to stop jumping through hoops, forge our own path, and create success on our own terms. Please don't break it. You get it just right. Do you want to know where
I know I'm gonna have to pee in like 5 minutes.
It's almost a full moon, so figure out where you want to sit. I know the phase of the moon.
You're not recording yet.
No.
You are recording. Are you recording?
What?
Don't put this in.
Which part? That you pee a lot?
I know I have to pee. I'm gonna have to pee. Really
Why is
soon.
that embarrassing?
As soon as we like get into it.
Hold on. This is a
Kinda like
middle-aged woman that has to urinate every 2 minutes.
Sit down and watch. It's like I'm just starting to get into it.
Oh, I got my snack.
Hey,
Let's watch
pee.
this. Shit, I gotta pee. It's weird. When you served in the Navy SEALs, did you have to urinate all the time?
That's my trauma from serving in the Navy SEALs. So I had to be dehydrated a lot.
Do you want to pee now?
I don't feel like I need to pee right now.
All right, well, everyone at home set a timer. I was thinking about Bob Dylan this morning after we watched that thing last night.
Yeah, we watched the...
I really appreciated it.
Wait, you gotta say, we watched the Netflix show, Something in Pop.
Yeah, The Greatest Night in Pop. Mm-hmm. But I was appreciating that from the get-go, he looked, I don't know, maybe this is what he always looks like, but he looked like he'd been abducted by aliens and he was just in an alien environment and he was with other people, alien. He just looked so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he stayed.
He did stay.
He stayed there. Mm-hmm. He stayed till the very end of the night and then he had to do his thing. You imagine how terrifying that would be? And then he didn't know what to sing and he asked Stevie Wonder for help to figure that out. Cool. I just thought that was like, they showed a lot of, it'd be easy to overlook him and or maybe kind of downplay him and his what he was working with there, but he stayed in it and he asked for help. He explicitly asked for help. Yeah. And he allowed himself to be helped.
That's true.
And then he did his thing.
Yeah, that was really sweet. I mean, I watched.
I mean, I would never do that. I would just watch.
You would just leave. You would just make it about something else. I would have been like
wailing. I'm like, I'm glad I'm out of here.
Yeah, it was so sweet too. I mean, I don't know if this was what was going on for him, obviously, but I was seeing his face, and it looked so much like he was like, I don't belong here. And
yeah, I wonder if he came in the world. He's felt that way his whole life, probably.
I don't know. I mean, he's had something pushing him or pulling him to be himself and do his music and all that.
He's trying to get off the spaceship, get back to where he came from. It's like, this is not where I belong.
I love how he just blossomed, though. He
opened up.
Yeah. It was when Stevie, he asked for help, and Stevie, there was clearly like a really sweet connection between them.
Yeah.
And then Stevie was playful, it seemed.
Yeah.
He was being really playful. And that's where I saw him really.
Yeah.
He like relaxed, like, oh, I get to just be me here.
Right.
I don't have to sing like these other people.
Yeah, because everybody was kind of belting and doing their big thing, and that's not his thing.
No,
it's not his thing at all. Yeah. All right. Well, I have a. You want to?
Speaking of Bob, did he write you today?
No, we don't have it. We have Burt Reynolds.
Oh God!
But it's spelled BER.
By the way, we were working out yesterday, and I look up on the screen at the profiles of the people, and I see the name Tripp Lanier first, and then I look at the little picture that there's like an opportunity to have a little icon picture. It's Burt Reynolds looking out of his whatever it was, Corvette or whatever, with his cowboy hat.
His Firebird.
His Firebird. Screaming chicken.
That was on the screen?
That was on the screen.
What a beautiful man.
And then JJ said that he saw I don't know if it was Spotify or something, but he saw you had some profile somewhere on social media, and it was Chuck Norris or something.
Really?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Do you know that you're doing these things?
Well, you see a picture, it's like put a profile picture. It's like, well, let's put something cool up. You know, I don't want to it doesn't need to be me.
Okay, so that before you bring up this topic, I just have to. This brings me to like, you do this on your computer too. Like you have like hard drives or whatever. You the little icons on your computer. Let's just go through what you have on there.
Yeah.
What do you have on there?
Kanye.
Before that was not cool to have him on there.
Why wouldn't it be cool? Oh, right. He's a dick. Yeah, he's been Kanye for a while.
Oh, right. He's a dick. So what else?
Yay. Well, I had Kenny Powers.
Kenny Powers, who's a character.
I think I had Kanye and Kim. Those were my two hard drives for a while.
Kanye and Kenny Powers.
No. Kenny wasn't a part of it. And then when Kanye and Kim broke up, I had a new hard drive. So I did.
Kanye and Kim?
Kim Kardashian.
You had Kim Kardashian on there? I don't know. I didn't know that.
So when I look at my hard drives, it says Kanye and Kim. And it just makes sense to me.
Because those are your two hard drives? And they're together?
Yeah, it was my backup drive.
And so what was Kenny Powers then?
He's my new drive.
He's your new hard drive?
Yeah, he's my new. So I do my music stuff.
Oh, okay. For music. Okay. And Kenny Powers is from what show?
Eastbound and Down.
Well, Eastbound and Down. Okay.
Do you remember? You know who he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy with the mullet.
Yes.
Super funny guy.
All right. So we're back to Burt Reynolds. What you want?
Just a little window into your you.
I mean, speaking of, yeah, we don't need to I could talk about Burt for a while, but
you wanna?
I would.
Yeah, well, go ahead. What do you want to say about Burt Reynolds? Other than he's the greatest, like your totem animal or something.
He's not. I mean, it was. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on.
Oh no! Why are you trying to move on? You're having fun.
I just appreciate it. I appreciate. I was a young. When I was a little kid, Burt was like the biggest star. He drove cool cars, and he had a fucking mustache, man. You see that mustache?
I did. It's hard not to see the mustache.
That caterpillar on his face. It looks so cool. I mean, Cannonball Run was this amazing movie for a little kid that was so into cars and stuff. And
yeah. And chicks.
A few years ago, I tried to watch that movie, and you can't stream it. And I was like, "What's going on? Why wouldn't they have this movie?" And it did not age well.
Like, oh, right.
This has got a lot of.
This is why they don't. You can't access it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's bury this movie. So,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, that way. I did that probably 20 years. No, that's not true. I probably did that about 12 years ago. 11 or 12 years ago, I was looking for the movie Song of the South.
Yeah, they took that one out.
They took that one way out.
Yeah, it's gone.
You can't find that movie anymore.
It's gone.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, this is Bert. This is Bert with a B-E-R-T, not the legendary Bert.
Okay.
B-U-R-T.
What's Bert? Does he have something to do with AI also?
Yeah, he does actually. How did you know? He is the founder of a AI-powered radar. He makes AI-powered radar detectors. He uses AI to help with that, which is probably a thing.
What do you need AI to help power radar detectors?
I don't know. It's probably like this is not why I'm not in those positions. It's not my job to be at that level. My job is to help them be at their best in those places.
You're absolutely right. All right, go on.
All right. So he says, "Hey, Tripp, big fan."
I'm starting to feel like I have to pee. How long has
Are
it
you
been?
shitting me?
I knew it was soon.
9
I told
minutes.
you 5 minutes.
It's been 9 minutes. Are you? What if it's just in your head? God almighty. The fuck? Does that buy us like another 5 minutes?
25.
20, really? You're optimistic.
I think I get maybe 45.
Okay. So Bert says, "Hey Tripp, big fan. I wake up at 5 a.m. each day to meditate and journal and write out my goals and work out." Okay. He's like, "I even ice plunge on the weekends." I wonder, do you think that maybe the ice plunge is kind of like that fad is, you think it's
waning,
tapering off?
I think I don't know. I don't know if it's tapering off.
Somebody sent me a thing where they were talking about, some guys were talking about how when the people fell off the Titanic for a moment there, they got healthier. and then they weren't.
Did you get that from a comedian or did you just
No,
make
I
that
said
up?
somebody sent me a thing like somebody else was talking about that.
You're serious?
Yeah, there was like two guys joking about that. So they got healthier for I don't know, a minute, and then the health benefits went away, and then they had hypothermia. Okay, so he does a lot. This guy, he says, "My workday is packed with meetings and calls. My family is the most important part of my life, but I know I could be a better father and husband. Lately, I'm feeling less energy and motivation. I've read Stephen Pressfield's War of Art, and I fight through the resistance each day, but it's not getting easier. Lately, I've been leaning on things like Adderall and caffeine and nicotine to keep my energy up. I'm a little concerned about how much, what did he say? I'm a little concerned about how much I'm using them. I don't like where this is headed. I'm scared that I'm going to fall behind and lose progress on everything that I've built. How do I get my fire back?" That's his question. How do I get my fire back?
Wow.
Yeah. You've been a grinder in your life. You've been somebody who's been a grinder type.
Yeah.
Earlier in your career. Can you relate to any of this at all?
I mean, I don't know. Yes, I can relate to it, from this perspective of feeling really like I've taken the Kool-Aid of like I'm in a state, or I'm like swimming in water, and it's just like this is what you do.
Like this is the game.
This is
what everybody's
you do.
doing. Right.
This is what you have to do.
Have to do. Right.
And then it kind of gets, I don't know if it's gamified or what the right word is, but it gets incentive as like, this is what you want to do. So like you want that, everybody wants all this. Like you like, don't you want a full practice? Don't you want a thriving, whatever, don't you? And I think it happens everywhere. I didn't get as much of this on my end growing up, but I know plenty of clients that get, well, when are you going to get married? And don't you want the house? And when are you going to get the baby? And like, there's just kind of a constant like nexting,
right?
Next level or next thing. And I think that I can relate to that in the way of feeling like, well, this is just what you do. Both everybody in my family, I was the youngest in my family, and everybody in my family hustled like crazy. And that was just what you did.
Right.
It was everybody was really full. And so that's just like, I'm like, okay,
it's almost like
I
it's
guess
celebrated
that's just what
too.
we do. Oh, absolutely.
It's like, you want to be able to answer like, how you been? Oh, I'm busy. There's a thing of like, okay, cool. Don't be not busy.
Well, even today, I mean, like I notice, sometimes I'll catch myself saying it, but I notice if someone, like, how you been and what's been going on? And people will say, oh, you're super busy. And people will be like, well, that's great. Like that's good for you. You know, like it's like it is a celebrated thing. And especially if it comes into, I don't know, this person seems like there might be really into metrics, like achieving things, but that's like a little cross it off the list type dopamine hit every time you do it. So I think there's a whole sort of fabric or like a matrix that gets built when we get enculturated and inoculated into that sort of way of being. And I definitely did. I still can. I feel lucky in the fact that I feel like I still do it to some degree. I have the habit of like being over full, but thankfully I feel like it's more like as a 7 on the Enneagram. Like I just say I'm like really into lots of things that are interesting to me. And so I don't see the reality of like how that might play out every single day of my life. And so then there's days that I have too many projects going on kind of thing.
So saying yes to all the things, but not really being in touch with what that means in terms of time and energy and those types of things.
And I think that for the most part, I feel the pinch periodically, but it's because I'm a yes to a lot of things. So I think my curiosity for Bert here is like, is he a yes to the things that he is he a yes to all these things?
Yeah.
Like, is he a yes to getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. to do all those things because somebody said it's a good idea, because somebody said he can optimize his life when he does that? Or is he doing it because he genuinely gets nourished from that? Yeah. Like I like waking. Sometimes if I wake up super early, it's a really sweet time of day because it's really quiet. The world's really quiet still. So it's a lovely time to just have a little bit of space from everything else. But is it like that's coming from a different place. So I feel curious.
Well, there's a couple of things that come up, and I actually deal with a lot of these scenarios. It's this conversation is very familiar with me. When you say a lot of those scenarios, you're talking about people that are like, I need my fire back scenarios, or scenarios like I'm doing way too much and I can't keep it up, but I think I have to. Yeah,
very
much the high achievers that it's very common that these guys decided early on that they were going to be successful, and they painted a picture in their mind, or they saw a picture, that's what I will become. So it's typically someone who has built a company and sold it, or reached this level of status in this particular industry or academia or whatever. There's just these things where it's like, that's the golden ring for me. Certain amount of money, the status, the story, but it's more from the outside, right? It's an external thing to accomplish, and so it becomes the flag on top of a mountain for them. And they decided that early on.
Do you think that they themselves decided that, or do you think like
I would say they decided it,
but
I think this should come back to like these developmental levels, which is like when I'm early on, we're kind of like, who am I? Well, I want to be successful, right? Like that. I don't want to be a loser. So there can be that simple. There's a part is like, just don't be a loser. Well, then what does it mean to be a winner? What does it mean to be a success? And so that gets carved out. Whatever kind of pool they're swimming in, there's a version of that. If they're athletic, there's a version of that. If they grew up around entrepreneurs, there's a version of that. If they're more academic, there's a version of that. Artistic, there might be a version of that. So then it's just put your head down and grind. Go do the thing, jump through the hoops, get the grades at school and get the whatever you need to do. And just you stay on that path of jumping through hoops. But there's not a lot of interiors there. There's not a lot of interior awareness there, meaning I haven't done the homework to think, how am I hoping this is going to make me feel one day? It's just a lot of it is like, just make sure you're not a loser. And if you do this, you kind of win. You'll be okay. You'll finally be okay. You'll have all the comfort you could want. You'll have all the certainty you'll want financially. And you certainly won't be a loser. You're going to look good. People will be like, hey, that's impressive. And you kind of just can it's a finish line for a lot of us. But what tends to happen as we get older, and you educated me on this, is that we move from who am I to who am I really? And that's where we're developing more of a sense of who we are on the inside. So all the things we're doing on the outside are like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing all of these things when I've never really asked that? I've never really taken into account. It's just like, well, this is what you do. This is what these people do. This is what, if you're trying to be one of these people, then this is what you do. And there's plenty of books on that. Plenty of interviews and experts will talk and like, here's my daily routine and here's this and that. Here's what I eat in the morning and here's how many times I wipe my ass when I take a shit. It's just like, and guys will write that shit down and go do it. But it's not forging their own path. They haven't really done the interior work yet to say, who am I really? So it's like, who's in the driver's seat or who's sitting in the chairman's seat in their brain and in that boardroom. And what I often see, I actually spoke to someone yesterday. It's just like, he hasn't done the work to like, yeah, who am I really? And what do I really want? And then wanting it to be fulfilling, wondering why it's not fulfilling and wondering why just doing more of what he's been doing isn't going to scratch that itch for him. It feels empty to him. And so, yeah, we go from this, like looking at all the exteriors of a thing, but not really being in touch with the interiors of it, the feelings, the experiences that we're most wanting to have. And those are questions. Why would we ask that stuff when we're in our 20s? Like, it's just, that's where a lot of us are putting our head down just to get it going and making sure that we protect and please and prove, that we, impress people and that we don't end up. And I just want to say this is very different than I'm just trying to support my family and get by. This is like people who have done pretty well for themselves. The whole like, we're going to be fine is okay, but it's now like, can we be fine if we live in this zip code?
Right.
And it still feels like a challenge to quote, get by, even though they're more than fine. The amount of money that they're making is more than fine, but they've created a scenario where it still feels like they're in, they're still in scarcity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right as you talk, all I can think about is our daughter who is so far from needing to be in the grind yet. And, I've sat down to 2 different meetings where pretty much those meetings were dictated with here's what you need to do to get by. Here's what you need to do to get accepted. And it was about college, like preparing and getting on a track for colleges so you can get accepted into college. And one was like, just get accepted into college, any college. And then the other was like, get accepted get seen as a contender for like a really good school. And then you got to do this. 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 Absolutely zero of those things truly really apply to life and fulfillment in life. And absolutely zero of those things have anything to do with a human being finding their nature, giving themselves access to that piece of themselves so they can be in touch with where do they really thrive? Where are their even interests?
Yeah.
Where are they really? Because there's so much core shit you just got to do in order to just get accepted to the next, so you can have an opportunity period. It's just for opportunities.
Right. You know, it kind of reminds me of like what it takes to get a rocket off the launching pad. It takes an enormous amount of power to get that rocket just a foot off the ground. And then as it's going further and further up, they can throttle down, but it can continue to gather speed and go into orbit. But those first initial seconds in that first minute is just a massive burn to get going. And so that's what those conversations are like for these young people. It's like, we've got to make sure you get off the pad and you launch. But there's not another part of the conversation, which is, okay, now that once you've built momentum and you've developed some skills, how then do you translate that to kind of do more of this? What am I really here to do? What am I really here to give? What am I really here to learn? And those conversations are so esoteric and out there. It's just like, let's just stick with the make money and kind of shit. I don't want to shit on that. That's fine. But if folks are like, wait a second, this isn't motivating me anymore. I just feel like I'm swimming upstream all the time. You know, this guy brought up resistance, right? He brought up Stephen Pressfield's resistance thing. And it's like, there's a resistance of like, I don't want to get up and do the thing anymore. It's like that, of course, right? Maybe I don't want to go work out today, but you go and you work out and there's a thing that's healthy for us. What I took away from Pressfield's work
this is the war of art.
The war of art. Like what I took away from that was that when you're here to create something as an artist, and you can be an artist as somebody that owns a company and is developing something and bringing it to the world. You can be an artist as an attorney. You can do your thing artfully.
Absolutely.
Okay. Doing it artfully though is going to challenge the way it's done. Like there's a script, and most of us are just following the script. But when you start to do it your way, or you start to lean into the thing that really matters to you, or here's my voice, here's what I have to say, or here's what I want to bring, or here's the impact that I want to make, that's the resistance he's talking about. Is the parts that's like, you know what, just do it the way it's always been done. Just follow the script. Just follow all the others that are in line and jumping through all the hoops. And so I have this problem with this form of resistance that some of us talk about, which is like, I need to take Adderall and I need to pump myself up with all these chemicals in order to get motivated. I like to get curious with that. What happened to the motivation? What's going on there? Maybe you're getting sick and tired of this FOMO game and just making sure you don't fall behind, which is different than answering the question, what am I really here to do?
Yeah. And I love that. And I think one of the key challenges here, particularly for somebody that's, I'm just going to stick with our daughter, like they're developing, because I think everybody's still developing no matter how old you are, because this is a piece of development, human development, that doesn't get covered, period. And so whether we're talking about our kid or whether we're talking about Bert's issue in whatever age he is.
All of us, yeah.
So yeah, all of us. So that's interesting that you talk about resistance, like the resist, I'm going to put it in my, woo-woo jargon, which is like, to me, that feels like death force. Like, no, don't, no more life force. Don't go create and bring more of that generative energy. Like stay here. It's safe here. Just like put your energy here, which is more, to me, it's more death force.
Well, I would just say
just hang on. So you're talking about it in that way, in that war of art way. When I was considering resistance, I thought I was looking at it from the term of like what, when our daughter came to us the other day and was last night and was like, I'm so overwhelmed. There's so many things that I'm tracking. And all of these things were have-tos. All these things were things that were put on her in her mind. And like, it's like school stuff, like stuff due or whatever. And it's all like, so she's still a straight A kid or achiever or whatever. All her rules.
Right.
And I don't know where she got those rules. I certainly didn't put them in her head. But it's like somehow that's there for her. And so when I saw resistance in her resistance was like fatigue and exhaustion or whatever, and really stress and not wanting to do it and all that. And so I saw resistance as like a voice of truth, actually, a voice, an informer saying, this is not the path.
Yeah.
So how does one discern between the whole war of art, like this is really what, like my creative force, I'm going to iterate myself, my truest self through my life, through whatever it is I do. Mm-hmm. How do we distinguish that, the resistance that shows up there, that kind of resistance versus the resistance of like, I'm doing way too much and this is my body telling me.
Yeah, I think they live in the same, I like that distinction. I think they live in the same neighborhood. You know, we can anticipate friction when we are going against our self. Like so who am I beyond just wanting to protect and please and prove?
You mean, and when you say we're going against ourself, do you mean like the capital S self?
That's
like
what
our
I mean.
essence?
It's like if we start to strip away this identity that we created early on in our teens and our 20s, let's say, to be this quote version of success, whatever we've carved out for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then we tell ourselves, I have to be this. And I buy into this thing, like my life will fall apart if I'm not this. Mm-hmm. And there's a version of it. People have anxiety and depression and stuff, even though they've kind of got everything. But they're still not allowed to enjoy it because there's so much more to strive for or whatever, that FOMO thing. There's just this thing that's driven by fear. So it's also why the goals feel empty after a while, is because we've already kind of scratched the itch. Like more comfort, more certainty, more kind of status at that level just doesn't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. It was to get us up above the tower. Mm-hmm. What's going on? Why are you...
It's very distracting. No, I'm looking at you holding your arms up and you're all in your element doing your teaching. You're all sexy right now.
Okay.
I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to break your flow.
All right. Well, you did. But it's just like when who are we when we're not in that frame of mind, when we're not in that place of that striving and protecting and pleasing and proving.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a version of us that's underneath there. Usually it gets eclipsed. Usually, probably we never even got encouraged to figure out who it is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the guy I talked to yesterday, he was obviously a very creative person, but he's been in a very different world his whole life. And he's been trying to be creative in this other professional world, and it's not working. It's just grinding against his gears there.
Well, and I also think about a friend of ours who has a son. I don't know how old he is now, 7, 8, 9, and he is like all boy, right? All boy. Mm-hmm. And pretty much all of his life up to this point has been like, knock it off, like settle down, that kind of thing. Right. Working with special teachers or whatever to have him fucking settle down because he's got so much creative force in his
he needs like 5 acres.
He does need 5 acres
burn
and
shit
blow
down.
shit up and break shit. Yeah, it's true.
I'm all for it. I've always thought every boy should have an acre of land.
That's a good policy. Yeah, but that I think about that when you're with what you're saying, like we don't get the opportunity necessarily. I mean, that doesn't get nourished.
Right. Who's really here? Right. Yeah. Who are you on your essential level? And you still got to go support yourself. You still got to we're not taking that off the table, but is there a way that we can do this which honors that and supports that? Right. And I think what you're speaking to come back to this resistant thing is like after a while, when I have been stuffing that for so long, then the engine gets hot. The lights start coming on in the dashboard. Something's off. Something's out of alignment. Mm. This should be motivating. This should be rewarding. This should feel fulfilling. It's not. Those are all wonderful indicators. And it's just information. It just means we've gotten off track. Yeah. So we could get curious there. Mm-hmm. Then when we start to do the digging and the revealing and the moving the shit out of the way, the scripts that we took on early on to get going and get up above the clouds, so to speak, then it's like, yeah, okay, what am I really here to do? What would like me? What do I want my life to stand for? These kind of bigger questions. Mm-hmm. Well, then when we start to, okay, how would we honor that? What would that look like for you to embody that? Mm-hmm. Then there's a form of resistance that shows up and says, ooh,
okay, so that's scary. Yeah, so it sounds like that I see what you mean by they're in the same neighborhood. So like
I like
one
friction
is
for the
ally.
First one. Yeah, one is the friction. It's like you're
it's
going
like
against
an ally.
Right.
It's those engine lights being like, yo, this is not
those bumps on the side of the road when you're going off. It's to wake you up. Meant to wake you up.
Right. And then the other is like the more would you say fear-based?
Yeah.
Or?
And it all comes back to, and I always know like somebody's up against this stuff because they come up with these catastrophic things. Well, if I do that, my family will go to shit. Like my wife will leave me.
Right. I'll lose all my income. I'll no longer have income.
It's just these, and it's happened for me, but it's like, I always know it's like, oh, we're in it. We're in that territory now because these catastrophic excuses come up. It's a little different.
So that's like a mark for you, like a point of measure.
Yeah.
And
like,
you know where they're at.
Here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
When we've come up with some catastrophic thing to keep us from doing it, then we get to be noble. Well, I'm doing this for my family. I'm sacrificing for my family. And it's a noble thing. And then you can kind of put your hand on your heart and look at the sun.
Feel knightly.
Yeah. And just be like, I'll just martyr myself.
Yeah. Polish your armor.
You're full of shit. All you got to do is make 2 phone calls this week. That's all I'm asking you to do. Right. And it's like, oh, well, if I do that, it'll blow up. It's like, no, it won't. I coached a guy one time, asked him why he was always talking about writing some book.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, I got to write this book. Why aren't you writing this book? I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how about you just get started? Like, just give me an outline. He wasn't even getting it going. And then when I just gave him some time and we drew it out, and he was like, yeah, I'm afraid I'll be on Oprah one day and like it'll fall apart. Like I'll be criticized or challenged. And I was like, wow, we got a long way to go, considering that Oprah is no longer on the air. Like we got a long way to go, like before that would ever happen. And how fortunate you would be to be in that position. Let's just write the goddamn book, okay? But if you don't ever challenge those things, they have a lot of power.
They have a lot of power. Yeah. So it sounds like you help people just baby step it. Like meaning when I say baby step it, actually that's reductionary. What I want to say is you help people. It's like you crack the glass. You crack the glass ceiling there. You put a little chink in it to be like, well, why don't you just make that phone call, or why don't you just start with a journal entry or something?
Well, like if we think about Bert here, Bert's in a game where he thinks he needs to get better at dealing with the friction. And there's something wrong with him because he's experiencing friction. Mm-hmm. And he's like, if I were to slow down or I might go backwards or whatever, that feels catastrophic for him. So what I like to do in those scenarios is just say, let's get curious about what the friction is here. And maybe there's a way that we can leverage that to make you even better at what you're doing. And for a lot of these guys, they've created finish lines, these false finish lines for themselves.
Wait, hang on, back up. You said maybe there's a way that we can leverage that to make you better at dealing with friction?
Yeah, so let's say that the way he's leading, he might not be delegating enough. He might be taking on way too much. He might have too much of a control thing. I worked with somebody recently, his way of running his company, I don't know how many dozens of employees he had. He was more comfortable being in a firefighter position, taking care of daily fires, than being the guy at the top that established a vision and delegated things. He was uncomfortable with a lot of that stuff. And he just felt more comfortable being the guy. Well, he started at the bottom, right? So he was more comfortable being in that thing. There was a false sense of accomplishment there. Right. But being the leader, saying, hey, XYZ, you need to have XYZ done by Friday, and then holding people accountable. He didn't like that shit. And so it was like, let's put you in a position where you have more space, but you're going to be challenged to be the leader. And that's what needs to happen right now for you. And actually there's more juice for him there. He's just afraid to step into that and grow into that.
Okay.
So it's getting curious with what that friction is. Maybe that friction is good information, and we can use that to put you in a position where you don't feel so much pressure and so much like I'm stuck and I'm not going anywhere and I have to, medicate myself in order to get going. And then the second part of the conversation, like if they're open to it and they want to get into it, is like, what are you really called to do? What's really the game for you? You're probably at a crossroads here. Or at least you're starting to sense that you are, that's coming. That's going to be you're heading into that phase of your life of answering the question, who am I really? And starting to ask those questions. And then that can be a lovely place to then leverage all of the skills that they've developed as leaders or as creators or builders or whatever it is that they do to look forward for that next phase and anticipate it, instead of, oh my gosh, I have to continue to play this game for X years until I reach a finish line or something like that. So, and And that's usually really exciting. But a lot of times, we only see that, like you talked about how we're indoctrinated or enculturated is the word that you use. But is like in my 20s, that's all I kind of know. We don't really know this other phase, which is forge your own path, like do your own thing, take a stand for something that you want, whatever that is, and or how you want to do something, and then lean into it. And a lot of it's just like, tell me what to do. Tell me what hoop to jump through. Tell me what score to get. And then wonder why we don't feel fulfilled by that.
If these interviews are helping you, please leave a positive review on whatever podcast app you use so that others can discover the show more easily.